I'd like to take a moment to talk about what happened at the hospital after Marcus was born. So they're going to try to keep the baby with the mother as much as possible, except for a few activities that the doctors and nurses need to perform. The first thing was they had to bathe the child to wash off the fluids off. And they're not going to bathe the child until the child's body temperature is at a certain level. So with Marcus, for example, he had to be under the infrared, the hot lamp, for like an hour before they can actually bathe them. For myself, I wanted to be there because I want to see how the nurse bathes the newborn. It was also very instructional because before that, the only other performance we saw was at the newborn care class, and you can see how the nurse, how much water. Essentially, you just need 2 cups of water and a little bit of the baby shampoo. The next time they took Marcus away was for vaccination. They gave the hepatitis B vaccination in the hospital. The moment they pricked my son, oh, he was screaming like there's no tomorrow. And when it came time in the morning, the OB/GYN came back, the doctor came back, and it was time to get my son circumcised. Yes, my son is circumcised. I live in New Jersey. From what I hear, most of the people here, over 90% of folks here, gentlemen here, are all circumcised. And we decided to get Marcus circumcised. I opted to watch how it was done and be there as well. To all the men out there, it's not a pleasant sight. I would still recommend you be there because it's a once in a lifetime event for your son, and it looked very painful. He was crying. He had a fever afterwards, and the nurse couldn't really relate. She thought it was weird why I felt squeamish, but I guess if you could tolerate the blood, if you could tolerate your son screaming on top of his lungs, if you can tolerate the sight of them bringing out that cookie cutter and cutting off the foreskin, it was worth watching because it is my son. And after that, a few hours later, they took him out again. In New Jersey, there's a requirement for 2 things: a hearing test and also to draw more blood. When they draw blood from Marcus, first thing they did was take a heat wrapped around his foot, and while it's heating up his foot, they then tried to do the hearing test. The hearing test for our son Marcus, he didn't pass that. I'll talk more about that later. But as for drawing blood, it's heart-wrenching to watch him try to draw blood from your newborn because they had to prick him a couple of times. They just couldn't pull enough blood from him. And when they dab the paper, they don't draw blood as in they insert it through a syringe. They prick him so that he'll bleed onto a piece of paper, and they need to fill all 4 holes on a piece of paper just so that they can send it to the state labs for the test. Now, about the hearing test, Marcus did not pass his hearing test at hospital. It was like an hour and a half before the audio technician just gave up and said, "You need to talk to your pediatrician about this." Now, she said it's not because there's something wrong with him. She explained it as her equipment's broken. I figure, okay, fine, her equipment's broken. Now, about 2 weeks later, the pediatrician tried to repeat the test in their office, and again, our son did not pass the hearing test. The nurse said her equipment was broken. We thought it was weird. The pediatrician came in and said, yeah, their pediatrician, their office, they don't have the proper equipment. We need to take them to a specialist. Typically at this point, I think most people will feel worried. My parents were worried. But I know that Marcus can't hear. There's times where I accidentally drop something on the floor and it would just startle him. Now, with at the specialist, it did take about another hour to perform a test, but they said that Marcus did pass his hearing. Things that they suspect that caused the previous test to fail is that your child cannot be crying. That's one thing. Second is earwax. At the third test, when the audio technician inserted the device into his ear and pulled it out, she saw a lot of wax on her device. So they had to first clean his ear, then perform the test again. It was crying and earwax. To help with this for the third test, what we did was we fed him right before, like my wife fed him right before the test was performed, just so that he's calm, he's a lot calmer. And we brought a pacifier too. So in case that he still cries, we have a pacifier nearby this time. So I hope this was very informative. Well, thanks for watching Awkward Hamster. If you have any questions, comments, any suggestions, please feel free to send a message. Thanks again for watching. Bye.